Okay, so I got a One Piece battle for you today, and it's an interesting one. It's Zoro and Sanji versus Lucci during Enies lobby, specifically during that arc. We'll just say that Luffy ends up fighting a whole bunch of other people, and then Zoro and Sanji have to fight Lucci to save Robin, and they have to work together to fight Lucci. Okay, some of you might be surprised by the results of this, but it's the truth. Back then in Enies lobby arc, Zoro has three switch style, no hockey. Sanji has, his kickboxing skills, no hockey. Rob Lucci has the six powers, and he has an extra ability called Six King Gun. Because he's like well proficient in the other six power arts that he created his own move called Six King Gun. Now we got them fighting each other, right? The 2v1 at Enies lobby. Strength goes to Lucci. Um, Zoro and Sanji at this point in the series are not banging out with this guy. They're not lifting as heavy as he is, and they are not striking as hard as he is. Not at this point. Speed wise is also the same story, man. He has a shave technique. That means he moves real fast, bro. It's their quick technique. They can, almost like vanish. It's almost as if they have vanished, right? Zoro and Sanji, they can probably react to it, but like barely, right? Durability wise, I also give it to Rob Lucci because he has armament, or not armament hockey, but iron body, which is basically kind of a prerequisite to armament hockey. Iron body allows his body to be hard like iron. So Zoro is gonna have a hard time cutting through it, and Sanji's gonna have a hard time, bypassing it. Now they have done that. They've done it in this arc. They've done it. I do understand that. But then when you look at, their durability, right? Sanji and Zoro's durability, come on, man. They ain't that durable. All of Jobra's attacks landed on Sanji and they did damage to him, right? You know, Zoro also, all of Kaku's attack landed and did damage to him, right? They were not tanking anything. Lucci, he was tanking some attacks, but then, tanking some and then taking no attacks. I give it to Lucci. And endurance, I give it to Lucci as well because though they have Zoro over there, and Zoro's an endurance guy, right? But Lucci, he was in that fight against Luffy, and that fight was, kind of long, They both were like, neck and neck. They were basically like the same strength, same speed, you know. One was trying to like, that one was like, that fight was really great. But endurance wise, I gotta give it to him, and I gotta give it to Lucci. He can stay in the fight longer than them. Intelligence wise, it goes to Lucci as well. Um, Sanji and Zoro aren't the brightest guys in the world. I wouldn't say Lucci's a super, super smart guy, but I know he's smarter than them two boys. Experience wise, Lucci got it. Lucci was running around at 12 years old, killing people in a kingdom. He killed the knights because they were cowards, and then he killed the pirates that he was initially supposed to go there and defeat. He destroyed the whole kingdom. When he reported back, he was like, they were already dead when I got there. He lied to them and shit, right? They were already, by the time I got there, the pirates already killed him, but he actually took it upon himself to do that. Yeah, man, he's been doing that shit for a while, man. He's like 30 something. So, yeah, man. Close skills go to Lucci as well. You know, Sanji and Zoro will try to come up on him and do shit, but Lucci's definitely putting hands on those boys, poking them with finger pistol. He will not stay away from that technique. He's definitely using that shit a lot. um, range skills go to Lucci as well because he has Tempest Kick. They don't have any range abilities at this point. You know, recovery going to Rob Lucci as well. None of these characters are known for having, healing abilities, but I think he recovers better. At least in this point in time. In the series, those forms of Zoro and Sanji, they ain't doing all that. Hacks go to Lucci. Again, like I said, he's a 6 powers master and a Dofer user. Now, they do have this to their advantage. They have the water. But here's the thing, Luffy couldn't even get Rob Lucci into the water. This man has a move called Moonwalk. They ain't pushing him that hard. If Luffy couldn't push him to, like, have his legs that fucked up, he did have to rest on a Navy ship, right? When Luffy hit him. But Zoro and them, they ain't doing that. And I'm not saying what you think I'm saying. I do actually think they'll eventually get some hits on Luffy or Lucci. But here's the thing, and the environment goes to Lucci too. He basically wins in all categories. You know, they are going to get some hits off eventually, but then when they hit him with everything they got, he's still there. He ain't worried about them, man. He's like, that's everything you have, huh? And then he just kills them, right there. So this fight is actually, Lucci wins mid difficulty. I know that's crazy as fuck to think, but man, they got their finisher moves, and their finisher moves are pretty alright, but in this fight, he's already doing damage to him before he brings out the big guns, right? The 6 King gun and all that shit, right? And he'll let them fucking go to their full extent on him. And just to prove that he can, he does have the power to kill them all. And see, when Luffy was fighting, Lucci, he knew that he was the only one who could beat him because, he's like, I'll kill all your friends, I'll save you for last, and he was going to kill them all too. Don't get it fucked up, At that point in time in the series, Sanji and Zoro lose, but it's a different thing nowadays. Like, that would be animal beef nowadays. If current Sanji and Zoro went against Lucci, Lucci wouldn't stand a fucking chance. They're low diffing him together. Because individually now, they could beat him in a 1-on-1. Sanji or Zoro. Nowadays. But, back then, nah, man. But let me know what you think in the comments below. It'd be cool if I'm the winner. Let me know who you think wins.